Ouais, je sais comment on est là dans la voiture, day in the life. Vous allez voir comment la vie elle se déroule, comment ça se passe, dans le tranquille.
Number 22, Hugo Ekitike! Hugo Ekitike! Hugo Ekitike! Hugo Ekitike!
There is a very specific moment when football changes for a player. Not when they sign their first professional contract, not when the big clubs call, not even when they make their debut. It changes when the game slows down, when chaos starts to feel familiar, when defenders stop feeling intimidating, and when a striker begins to expect goals rather than hope for them. For Hugo Ekitike, that moment didn't happen at Paris Saint-Germain. It didn't happen under the Champions League floodlights. And it certainly didn't happen when Liverpool came calling. It happened years earlier, quietly, away from the spotlight, on modest pitches in France and Denmark, in matches nobody outside the scouting world was watching. And this is what makes his rise so compelling. Because when Liverpool signed Hugo Ekitike in the summer window, not as the headline striker, not as the first choice, not as the marquee obsession, what they were really signing was a footballer forged by rejection, adaptation, and relentless self-belief. This is not a story of instant stardom. This is the story of a striker who had to leave France, his home country, to be understood, had to fail publicly to grow privately, and had to become undeniable before being trusted. This is the story of Hugo Ekitike and how he arrived at Anfield ready. Hugo Ekitike was born on June 20th, 2002 in Reims, a city steeped in French football tradition but far removed from the glamour of Paris. Reims is not where stars are manufactured. It is where footballers are taught fundamentals, movement, discipline, humility. From an early age, Ekitike stood out physically. Tall, lean, and naturally athletic. He didn't look like the stereotypical French academy striker, obsessed only with technique. What separated him wasn't just size, it was timing. Even as a boy, Hugo arrived early in the box, not late. He attacked space before defenders recognized danger. Coaches noticed something difficult to teach: instinct. He began at Comotrouille FC, a local club, before joining Stade Reims Academy in 2013. At Reims, he wasn't pampered, he wasn't rushed, he wasn't hyped, he was developed. Coaches worked on his fast touch under pressure, his ability to receive on the half turn, and critically, his willingness to press defenders without the ball. This would later become a defining trait. But early on, there were doubts. Ekitike was tall but not yet powerful, skilled but not flashy, promising but not special, at least not in the way scouts often want. And that hesitation would shape everything that followed. In July 2020, Hugo Ekitike signed his first professional contract with Stade Reims. He was only 18. Just 3 months later, he made his Ligue 1 debut against Lorient, stepping onto the pitch knowing that French football has little patience for teenagers who don't immediately perform. But his early senior appearances were limited. Reims were pragmatic, survival-focused, goals were precious, and risks were avoided. For Ekitike, that meant cameo appearances, limited starts, few touches, and heavy defensive responsibility. And as you all know, that for a striker can be suffocating. Goals didn't flow. His confidence wavered. Reims faced a decision: let a young striker stagnate, or send him somewhere uncomfortable, somewhere he'd be forced to grow. They chose discomfort. In January of 2021, Hugo Ekitike was loaned to Vejle Boldklub in Denmark. On paper, it looked like a step down, but in reality, it was a turning point. Danish football is physical, direct, and unforgiving. There is no protection for young forward, no patience either, and so Ekitike struggled initially. Defenders were aggressive, midfielders bypassed him, chances were scarce, but something crucial happened in Denmark. Something Paris Saint-Germain and Reims couldn't provide at the time. He learned to fight for relevance. Every game became a test. Can you hold the ball with your back to goal? Can you sprint repeatedly without reward? Can you stay mentally sharp when the ball doesn't come? This was not about goals. This was about survival. And while the numbers were modest, the transformation was not. When Ekitike returned to Reims, he was stronger, more aggressive, more decisive, and most importantly, hungrier. Then came the breakout that France couldn't ignore. In the 2021-2022 season, Hugo Ekitike finally announced himself, given trust, given stats, given freedom, and he delivered. Goals came quickly, confidently, from different situations. Runs across the near post, calm finishes in transition, and intelligent movement between centre-backs. By mid-season, scouts were circling. This wasn't a poacher. This wasn't merely a target man. This was a modern striker, mobile, intelligent, and technically clean. And so, as France noticed, the rest of Europe also kept eye. And soon enough, Paris came calling. In 2022, Hugo Ekitike joined Paris Saint-Germain initially on loan before the move became permanent. For a young French striker, PSG represents everything: prestige, pressure, and brutal hierarchy. At PSG, Ekitike trained alongside Kylian Mbappé, Lionel Messi, and Neymar. This was football at its absolute peak, but matches were another story. Because minutes were limited, roles were unclear, his confidence fluctuated, and for a striker who thrives on rhythm, PSG offered none. He wasn't failing, but he wasn't growing either. Yet this period mattered, because PSG taught Ekitike something essential. He won a Ligue 1 title, but more importantly, he learned humility. And when PSG decided he wasn't ready to lead their line, Hugo Ekitike didn't resist. He left. Ekitike needed a club that didn't want a brand, it wanted a footballer. So then came Eintracht Frankfurt. In February of 2024, Eintracht Frankfurt secured Hugo Ekitike on loan from PSG. To casual observers, this felt like a sideways move, but to those who understand German football, it was inspired. Frankfurt offered three things PSG never could: minutes, responsibility, and forgiveness for mistakes. Bundesliga football is fast, open, transitional, which is perfect for a striker who thrives on space and movement. And crucially enough, Frankfurt didn't ask Ekitike to be something he wasn't. They didn't turn him into a target man. They didn't shackle him to the penalty box. They just asked him to run, combine, press, and finish. From his first appearances, the difference was visible. His movement was freer, his body language was lighter, his decision-making was sharper, and was not just good, it was transformational. Across all competitions, Hugo Ekitike produced 22 goals and 12 assists. Consistent match-winning performances and relentless pressing from the front. In the Bundesliga alone, he scored 15 goals in 33 matches, often against elite opposition, but numbers only tell part of the story. What truly changed was how he scored. Ekitike was no longer just finishing moves. He was creating chaos, dropping deep in between lines to drag centre-backs out, spinning in behind the moment defenders stepped up, combining in tight spaces then exploding into the box. Defenders didn't know whether to follow him or hold their line, and in that indecision, Frankfurt thrived. By spring of 2025, the narrative around Hugo Ekitike had completely flipped. He was no longer that PSG misfit, or that unfulfilled potential, or that lone project. Now, he was one of the Bundesliga's most complete forwards. He was now a modern number 9 with elite movement, a striker built for the Premier League. Frankfurt didn't hesitate. In April of 2024, they activated the option to make his move permanent. This was not sentiment, this was conviction. Ekitike wasn't just contributing, he was defining matches. Frankfurt finished third in the Bundesliga, securing Champions League qualification, and there was no debate inside Germany who had driven that success. It was Hugo Ekitike and his close partner at that time, Omar Marmoush. Germany didn't just give Ekitike confidence, it gave him clarity. At Frankfurt, his role was clear: lead the line, initiate the press, be decisive in the box, and embrace responsibility. Tactically, he evolved dramatically. His pressing became intelligent rather than frantic. His first touch improved under pressure. His finishing became more ruthless, fewer touches, quicker decisions. Most importantly, he learned when not to shoot. Assists rose, link-up play flourished, and suddenly, Ekitike was no longer just a scorer, he was a complete package. This is where scouts from England truly began paying attention. So, by the start of the 2025 summer transfer window, Hugo Ekitike was one of the most monitored strikers in Europe. Premier League clubs were watching closely. His physical profile fit England, his pressing suited modern systems, and his age suggested growth, not decline. But here's the twist. Despite his numbers, despite his form, despite his momentum, he was not the first choice target for most elite clubs, and that would become the most important detail of his Liverpool story. Liverpool entered the summer of 2025 as Premier League champion, but with a question still unresolved. Who leads the line long term? They explored bigger names, more established scorers, more glamorous options. Hugo Ekitike was admired, but was not an obsession. He was the alternative, the contingency, the striker you sign when the primary plan doesn't materialize. And when Liverpool finally turned their full attention to him, something clicked. Because when you strip away hype, age, and branding, what remained was a striker perfectly suited to Arne Slot's system. High pressing, vertical movement, and relentless intensity. Ekitike wasn't just a fallback, he was a fit. When Liverpool completed the deal, the reaction was mixed. There was excitement, there was curiosity, there was skepticism. Some fans asked, is he elite enough? Why wasn't he the first choice? Can he handle Anfield in the Premier League? Ekitike didn't respond publicly. He never does, because by now he understands something critical. Football does not reward noise, it rewards impact. So when he arrived at Liverpool, he didn't arrive as a savior. There was no unveiling video framed around him, no immediate declaration of the new number 9, no promise of instant dominance. Instead, he arrived quietly, deliberately into a squad already rich with attacking options. And that was precisely why this move worked. Liverpool had just won the league. The pressure wasn't to transform the team, it was to enhance it. Ekitike wasn't asked to replace a legend or rescue a broken system. He was asked to earn his place. For some players, that can be intimidating, but for Hugo, it was a familiar territory. There is a strange advantage in football to not being the headline act. When you're not the marquee signing, mistakes are forgiven, development is allowed, and pressure is shared. Ekitike had lived this reality before, at Paris Saint-Germain, at Frankfurt, even at Reims. So when Liverpool signed him, after exploring other striker options first, he didn't take it as an insult, he took it as freedom. Freedom to learn the system without panic, to adapt physically to the Premier League and understand the rhythms of the league. While others faced immediate scrutiny, Ekitike focused on details, the pressing triggers, defensive positioning, when to drop, when to spin. This was Arne Slot's football, intense, structured and demanding, and Ekitike was built for it. Arne Slot's Liverpool is not about static strikers. It is about movement, coordination and sacrifice. From the outside, people wondered if Ekitike could handle all that workload, but inside the club, there were fewer doubts. Why? Because this is exactly what he had been doing in Frankfurt. The pressing habits, the transitional runs, the willingness to sprint even when the ball doesn't arrive. So, Slot did not need to reprogram him. He just needed to refine him. England demanded the final layer, efficiency. So, touches reduced, decisions accelerated and margins tightened. And gradually, the goals followed. And when Ekitike finally began scoring consistently, something changed. Not just in the numbers, but also in the stadium. Because Anfield is a demanding place. It senses authenticity. It rewards effort before excellence. And when Ekitike scored his first crucial goals, including his strike in the Community Shield, the response was not explosive. It was approving. That matters, because approval at Anfield grows into belief. So by the time Liverpool faced Newcastle, Hugo Ekitike was never playing for acceptance. That phase had already passed. He was trusted by the manager, relied upon by teammates, and understood by the system. The debate wasn't whether Ekitike belonged, it was how far he could go, because football careers often hinge not on breakout moments, but on confirmation moments. Games that don't introduce a player to the audience, but remind everyone why he is there. This was one of those nights. Liverpool weren't searching for an inspiration, they weren't experimenting, they were executing. And Ekitike was already part of that, not through force, not through desperation, but through positioning, anticipation, and calm decision making. The first was classic Ekitike. Movement across the defensive line, subtle shifts of body position, exploiting a moment of hesitation rather than brute force. The second told a deeper story. This wasn't about reaction, it wasn't about chaos, it was attacked the space in behind with precision. Not speed for spectacle, but speed with purpose. It was the finish he didn't make, a move he declined, a future he walked away from. For the first time that night, Ekitike allowed himself a response. Not defiance, not provocation, just acknowledgement. Not because he had arrived, but because he had earned the right to stand there unaffected. This was a player doing his job, and that's what made it significant. For the coaching staff, it reinforced trust. For teammates, it reinforced predictability. For supporters, it reinforced belief. Not belief in potential, belief in dependability. After that night, nobody inside Liverpool talks about Hugo as a project, a gamble, or a calculated risk. He was simply a part of the machine. And in elite teams, that is the highest compliment.